They called her dead weight, laughed at her, humiliated her, and fired her without warning. But they didn't know Jennifer Blake was quietly planning the ultimate revenge. Weeks later, the $100 million project they depended on went dark, investors panicked, and the arrogant CEO who betrayed her was left begging for help. This is the story of how a woman they underestimated destroyed the empire that betrayed her and came out on top. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your comments. Jennifer Blake adjusted her blazer in the reflection of the elevator doors, taking a deep breath as she rode up to the 24th floor of Novatech Industries. The city skyline glimmered outside the glass walls, a reminder of the empire she had devoted 5 years of her life to. Her colleagues often whispered that she was meticulous to a fault, sometimes too cautious, sometimes overlooked. But she had delivered results. She had fought for every contract, every deal, every product launch. The lobby smelled of polished wood and antiseptic, but the sterile environment did nothing to calm the knot in her stomach. She entered the office floor and immediately sensed it. The cold stares, the whispers that died as she passed, the faint tension in the air. Jennifer wasn't a stranger to office politics, but there was a distinct chill today, as though the building itself had turned against her. Her phone buzzed with a message from Richard Monroe. Her manager, "Jennifer, my office now. No greeting." No hint of concern, just a command. Jennifer's hand trembled slightly as she entered the sleek office of Richard Monroe. He was seated behind a massive mahogany desk, his posture rigid, lips pressed into a thin line. The walls, adorned with certificates and photos of past successes, seemed to mock her. "Jennifer," he began, his voice cold and clinical, "we need to talk about your performance." She nodded, trying to steady herself. "Of course, Richard. I thought the last quarter's report—" "Don't interrupt," he snapped. "You've been underperforming, dead weight, inefficient, and frankly, this company cannot afford to carry someone who slows down the team." Jennifer blinked. "Dead weight?" "Yes," Richard said, leaning back, a smug satisfaction in his tone. "We've decided to terminate your employment, effective immediately. HR has your paperwork." The room spun. Jennifer's mind raced, grasping for words. She had noticed subtle tensions, perhaps even jealousy, but this public dismissal, felt like a slap in the face. "I don't understand," she whispered, fighting to keep her composure. "I've consistently met every target, every deadline. Richard waved dismissively. "Enough. Collect your things. Leave." Jennifer's vision blurred as she walked out, her reputation crumbling in silence. Coworkers avoided eye contact, whispers trailing her down the hallway like invisible chains. Every memory of late nights, every pitch she had delivered, every extra mile she had walked, all invalidated in one humiliating sentence. It hadn't always been like this. Jennifer remembered the first day she stepped into Novatech Industries 5 years ago. She was ambitious, intelligent, and determined to prove herself in a male-dominated tech industry. Her mentor, Evelyn Grant, had guided her through corporate challenges, teaching her the nuances of negotiation, strategy, and leadership. Jennifer had started in a junior analyst role, spending nights poring over reports, building models, and presenting ideas that often went unnoticed. But she persisted. Soon, her proposals began to win key clients, increase profits, and streamline operations. She earned the respect of a few, the envy of many, yet with every achievement, her rise seemed to attract subtle sabotage. Files misplaced, deadlines shifted, praise redirected to others. She shrugged off the setbacks, always believing that her work would speak for itself. And it did, until now. Jennifer spent the evening wandering the city streets, a storm of emotions inside her: anger, shame, disbelief. But under it all, a flicker of determination began to grow. She would not allow this betrayal to define her. She returned home, sitting alone in her apartment surrounded by stacks of work files, her laptop open, her mind racing. Questions circled. Why was she fired? Who had orchestrated this? And most importantly, how could she fight back? The next morning, Jennifer reached out to old colleagues she trusted. Evelyn Grant was the first person she called. "Jennifer," Evelyn said after a pause. "I'm so sorry. I knew things were tense, but I didn't realize it was this extreme. I can't let them get away with this," Jennifer replied, her voice firm. "Richard thinks he can ruin me and walk away unscathed. He doesn't know what he's starting. Evelyn was silent for a moment. Be careful. Revenge in a corporate setting is complicated, but if anyone can do it, it's you. Jennifer smiled faintly, a spark lighting in her eyes. Then it's settled. I'm going to make sure Novatech feels the consequences. Over the next few weeks, Jennifer dug into Novatech's operations. She discovered critical weaknesses, supply chain vulnerabilities, outdated software systems, and reliance on a single, poorly managed $100 million project that Richard had been handling recklessly. She connected with former colleagues and industry contacts, quietly gathering intelligence. Each night, she built a plan, a meticulous blueprint that would expose the incompetence of Richard and the executives while positioning herself to regain control. She was careful, patient. Every move was calculated. Jennifer knew one wrong step could ruin everything, but the taste of betrayal fueled her determination. It was a Wednesday morning when the first phase of Jennifer's plan went into motion. Novatech's main software system began malfunctioning during a critical transaction. Orders stalled. Suppliers complained. Executives scrambled. And behind the scenes, Jennifer orchestrated everything remotely, using the knowledge she had painstakingly gathered. Richard was the first to panic. He called her in disbelief, trying to negotiate, pleading for help from the woman he had called dead weight. But Jennifer remained unseen, pulling strings like a master strategist. The chaos lasted hours, leaving Novatech vulnerable, humiliated, and exposed to the world of their competitors. The first message was clear. Jennifer Blake was not gone. She was coming back, stronger, smarter, and unstoppable. Jennifer watched the news reports from a quiet cafe, a faint smile on her lips. Headlines screamed about the Novatech disruption, speculating about internal sabotage. None suspected the mastermind was sitting quietly, sipping her coffee, plotting the next move. She opened her laptop and typed a single note to herself. They laughed at me once. Let's see who's laughing now. The city skyline was bathed in the golden light of dawn, but inside Novatech Industries, chaos reigned. The $100 million Astra project, the company's crown jewel, had ground to a halt. Orders were delayed, investors panicked, and the executives scrambled to contain the fallout. In the center of it all was Richard Monroe, pale and flustered, pacing the floor of his office. His phone rang incessantly, calls from angry clients, irate board members, and desperate suppliers. He had no idea that the woman he had called deadweight weeks ago, Jennifer Blake, was orchestrating it all. Jennifer had changed. Fired, humiliated, and underestimated, she had spent the past weeks quietly building an empire behind the scenes. She had contacted former colleagues, engineers, and suppliers loyal to her, forming a network that rivaled Novatech's internal operations. Gone was the hesitant, polite employee. In her place stood a confident, strategic mastermind. Every action she took was precise, calculated, and devastating in impact. She was no longer a victim. She was the storm. Jennifer's first move in this second phase was subtle yet devastating. She had secretly accessed Novatech's internal systems and identified the key flaw in the Astra project. A dependency on a single outdated software platform that Richard had ignored for months. With a few keystrokes, she initiated a controlled failure of the system. The results were catastrophic. Production halted, supply chains were disrupted, and financial losses began to mount. Richard was summoned to the boardroom, face pale, his confidence shattered. As he presented weak excuses, the board's skepticism grew. Investors began to question his competence. Whispers filled the room. How could he let this happen? Then Jennifer struck. She requested a private meeting with the board, citing her expertise in crisis management and her intimate knowledge of the Astra project. Reluctantly, they allowed her access. Jennifer walked into the boardroom, calm and composed, her laptop in hand. Every eye was on her. Richard's smirk faltered. He recognized the resolve in her eyes, the same woman he had dismissed as useless, now standing as the only solution to save the project. Gentlemen, Jennifer began, her voice steady. I believe I can restore the Astra project, but only if we act quickly. And it starts with addressing the failures that were ignored under Mr. Monroe's leadership. The board exchanged glances, tense and uncertain. Richard tried to interrupt, but Jennifer raised a hand. Let me finish, she said. She outlined the technical flaws, the supply chain vulnerabilities, and the overlooked operational risks. Every word was backed by meticulous data and actionable solutions. The board listened, riveted, realizing that the woman they had fired was the only person capable of saving $100 million. Within hours, Jennifer's plan was in motion. She deployed her team, corrected the system failures, and restored production. The turnaround was rapid, efficient, and undeniable. Richard, once arrogant and untouchable, found himself sidelined, his incompetence exposed. Emails circulated, documenting every failure under his leadership. By the end of the week, the board voted unanimously to remove him from the Astra project. Publicly, he remained a figurehead, but internally, his authority was gone. Jennifer had done more than save the project. She had reclaimed her power and humiliated those who had doubted her. Weeks later, Jennifer stood on the top floor of Novatech Industries, overlooking the city she had once walked through in shame. The Astra project was not only back on track, but exceeding expectations. Investors praised her leadership, colleagues respected her brilliance, and even the media began to take notice. A congratulatory email from the CEO landed in her inbox, recognizing her contributions and offering her a permanent leadership role. Jennifer smiled, reflecting on the journey from humiliation to vindication. She opened her laptop and typed a single note to herself. "They underestimated me once. Never again." Jennifer Blake had been fired as dead weight, but she returned stronger than ever. She had turned the tables, claiming not just revenge, but triumph, respect, and the power she had always deserved. As the sun set, casting golden light across the city, Jennifer knew one thing for certain: no one would ever underestimate her again. If you liked my story, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with as many people as possible. Thanks for watching.